who is committed. To our climate.
Iagos.
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 Iagos. Iagos. Iagos.
Iagos is a research infrastructure using commercial aircraft for long-term measurements of atmospheric composition relevant for climate change and air quality.
Wir unterstützen als
The
Bundesforschungsministerium
German Federal Ministry of Research supports Iagos because it's a great scientific opportunity to gather information and data on climate change.
zu verschaffen,
This will help us to arrive at conclusions.
Schlussfolgerungen daraus zu ziehen.
Iagos is a unique infrastructure in the European landscape of research infrastructures. It provides unique data in the region of the upper troposphere and lower stratosphere, which is one of the most important regions for climate. It's actually a flagship.
L'idée.
The original idea was to make commercial aircraft both the object and the means of the study.
Et le moyen de l'étude.
Wir erhoffen uns durch
We hope to gain more accurate data on air composition at a very interesting level through the close collaboration with airline companies involved in this Iagos scientific project.
genauere Daten über die Luft-
This will tell us whether we perceive change processes, to what extent we perceive them, and whether science and politics have to respond.
die Politik darauf reagieren muss.
Iagos has clearly demonstrated that commercial aircraft are ideal platforms to collect such a huge amount of data needed to further answer these critical issues.
It is this perfect harmony and complementarity between scientific and industrial interests which forms the foundation of the great success of Iagos.
The Iagos concept is to use commercial aircraft to fly scientific equipment. It's a very cheap tool to gather in situ data with high accuracy and with a big interest for validation of models and for the knowledge of the atmosphere.
Iagos is operated and funded by these important European institutes and institutions. It joins their expertise with the infrastructure of global aviation.
Iagos started almost 25 years ago as a research program for 3 years. Today, it's a European research infrastructure meant to last, let's say, for 2 or 3 additional decades.
The Iagos instrumentation has been designed to collect information on the atmospheric composition, measuring reactive and greenhouse gases, as well as aerosol and cloud properties.
Iagos.
Iagos is also used by operational services, by meteorological services working on air quality forecasting, in particular the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service.
Copernicus.
Météo France is the French National Meteorological Service, and we use the Iagos data with partners for monitoring and forecasting the air quality.
Iagos provides measurements for climate change and for air quality, and these are important because by the measurements in the upper troposphere, there's long-term data which tells us about the change in the past and in the future.
Well, that looks interesting when you see here the various altitudes connected with dense ice clouds here. Ice clouds are one of the most important players in the global climate, and we have still a lot of unknowns about these cloud type, and Iagos can help to close a few of these gaps. We use our long-term data, which go back to about 20 years or more, to look for changes in the atmospheric chemical composition which we can relate to changing climate. IAGOS data are not only used for monitoring the status of the atmosphere, but also for improving safety in aviation. That means our data help to validate a system which guides aircraft safely through a belt of thunderstorms. Overall, we are now at the position that these long-term data sets are able to provide information on changes in the atmosphere, because you need at least 2 decades of data to make statistically robust statements on potential trends.
Aircraft observations of greenhouse gases are especially important because of their ability to link spaceborne measurements to global scales of calibration. The data sets that we provide are used by a number of researchers around the globe. This also includes weather services at various countries. Greenhouse gases, methane and CO2, are mostly responsible for global climate change and global warming of the Earth.
IAGOS Caribik is an extremely well-equipped chemical laboratory that is installed in the cargo bay of an Airbus by Lufthansa. It houses altogether 19 instruments from 12 institutions in Europe and in the US that measure altogether about 100 trace species and aerosol parameters. Main objective of IAGOS Caribik is to better understand changes of processes in the upper troposphere and lower stratosphere, and in turn how climate change affects these processes and change them in the future. Our final goal actually is to improve the performance of climate models, because high-resolution data allows us to study the performance and the quality of the representation of processes embedded in the climate models. And our ultimate goal is, of course, to improve these models and to get more reliable forecasts on the future climate.
Well, IAGOS allows us to investigate and understand cloud formation and precipitation formation mechanisms in parts of the atmosphere that we can't routinely access. And we can use this data to improve our understanding of the patterns in our changing climate. Well, the cloud measurements made by the BCP and also other types of particles are very useful for airlines because it actually helps them to understand far better the environment in which their aircraft operates. It also provides engineers with information on the environment in which their aircraft engines actually have to operate in. For example, ingestion by ice and other dust particles, for example. So by providing them with very detailed in situ information, this allows them to improve the efficiency of the engines, but also helps them to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and hence reduce their carbon footprint from their aircraft operations.
So the long-term data sets of IAGOS are quite important.
I expect more and more scientists to start to make use of IAGOS data sets and make new discoveries about our atmosphere. And it also acts as a very good training ground for young scientists to help us understand and better look after our planet.
There is no doubt that IAGOS has to develop as much in terms of new aircraft equipped to increase the geological coverage, as well as in terms of strengthened collaborations with other research infrastructures.
We want to promote international issues which not only affect our nation, but many nations, and that will succeed with IAGOS.